German shepherd refused to leave baby's crib. Parents set up camera and gasped. The house had never been quieter. The usual hum of the TV, the clatter of dishes, the gentle sound of Josh's guitar noodling in the corner, all gone. Replaced by the hush of anticipation, the shuffle of socks on polished floors, and the rhythmic creak of the front door opening to something entirely new. Emma stepped inside first, bundled in a soft maternity sweater, her face still pale from the hospital stay but glowing with something deeper than health, something fierce and vulnerable all at once. In her arms, wrapped in a blanket of pastel stars, was baby Lily. Barely the size of a loaf of bread, yet heavier in their lives than anything else ever had been. Josh followed, carrying 2 overflowing hospital bags and his eyes permanently fixed on his wife and daughter. He hadn't slept more than an hour in 2 days, but he couldn't stop smiling. And then came the rustle of claws on hardwood. Their 5-year-old German shepherd trotted into the entryway, alert but cautious. He tilted his head, ears perked. His tail wagged tentatively, waiting for permission. Emma smiled. "Hey buddy, meet your sister." Josh crouched down, rubbing Max behind the ears. "It's okay. She's not loud, yet." Max approached slowly, sniffing the air with the solemnity of a soldier on duty. When he reached Emma, he paused, eyes locked onto the blanket. One sniff. Then another. And then, in a motion so gentle it made Emma's throat tighten, Max lowered his head and pressed his nose softly against Lily's foot. Lily twitched. Max froze. And then Lily let out a hiccupy little sigh and went back to sleep. That was the moment everything changed. The first week at home passed in a strange fog. Sleep was rationed like gold. Coffee was consumed by the gallon. But despite the chaos, Max adjusted almost instantly. He followed Emma from room to room during feedings, settled by Josh's feet during bottle prep, and always stayed as close as possible to Lily. At first, they thought it was adorable. Max curled up near the crib at night, as if keeping guard. When Emma changed Lily's diaper, Max would sit nearby, eyes on the door. When Josh rocked Lily in the living room, Max would lie under the rocker, his head resting on Josh's foot. Emma took pictures, then short videos. "Look at him," she whispered one night, camera angled to show Max's long, lean form stretched out under the crib like a sentinel. "She has her own personal bodyguard." Josh chuckled. "We should start charging people for protection services. Hire Max, baby certified." They laughed, half drunk on love and fatigue. But soon, Max's behavior shifted from endearing to intense. It started with bedtime. Every evening when they placed Lily in her crib, Max would beat them to the nursery, lying down beside it before they even turned off the lights. If they called him away, he obeyed, reluctantly. The moment they went to bed, he would pad silently back into the nursery. Emma caught him once on the baby monitor at 2 a.m., sitting, not sleeping, staring at Lily in the dark. She nudged Josh awake. "Look at this, he's not even lying down." Josh blinked at the screen, eyes blurry. "Weird." "Weird how?" she asked. "Just intense, I guess. Like he's waiting for something." Emma watched the screen. Max hadn't moved in 10 minutes. "He looks worried," she whispered. By the 3rd week, Max no longer left the room voluntarily. He ignored his food bowl unless they brought it to the hallway outside the nursery. He refused walks at night unless one of them stayed behind with Lily. And when they picked her up to take her into another room, Max followed so closely that Emma tripped over him more than once. "Okay, Max, space, buddy," Josh said one day after nearly dropping a bottle. "She's fine. We're her parents, remember?" Max tilted his head and whined softly. Emma placed Lily in her bouncer and sat down beside Max, running her hand down his back. "You're a good boy," she whispered. "But you're starting to freak me out." One evening, Emma was rocking Lily in the nursery when Max suddenly stood up and paced. Not wildly, methodically. Back and forth. Ears flicking, nose lifted. "Max," she said. "What is it?" He walked over to the crib, sniffed the air, then whined and looked at Emma. She followed his gaze. Lily was sound asleep. Josh entered the room, pausing in the doorway. "What's going on?" "I don't know," she said, her voice low. "He's been doing this a lot lately." Josh walked over and knelt in front of Max. "You sense something, boy?" Max didn't move. His eyes stayed fixed on the crib. Emma swallowed. "What if he's, I don't know, sensing something we're missing? Something wrong?" Josh shook his head. "He's probably just being protective." Emma didn't respond right away. "She's so little," she finally said. "So fragile." Josh put his arm around her shoulders. "We'll protect her. Gimme and Max." That night, Emma dreamed that Lily stopped breathing. She jolted awake, heart racing, and ran into the nursery. Lily was fine, chest rising and falling, lips pink, Max curled tightly beside the crib like a shadow. Emma knelt and stroked his fur. "What do you know that I don't?" she whispered. Max didn't move. But she could have sworn. His eyes flicked to Lily, then back to her. And in that look, there was something more than loyalty. There was knowledge. And it chilled her to the bone. The days grew quieter, but Max grew louder, in ways only Emma seemed to notice. Josh brushed it off. "He's a German shepherd. It's what they do. Guard, protect, overreact. Built into their DNA." But this wasn't barking at delivery drivers or growling at thunder. This was different. Max wasn't reacting. He was waiting. It started small, Max refusing to eat unless Lily was in the same room. He'd nudge his food bowl toward her bouncer with his nose, tail down, and stare at her as he crunched each bite. Then came the restlessness. At night, Max paced the nursery floor like a sentry on patrol. Not frenzied, but focused. Every few minutes, he'd stand up from his post and sniff the air, like something invisible was there. Watching. Emma tried to reason through it. Maybe he's just adjusting. Or maybe the new baby smell is overwhelming his senses. She shrugged. Maybe he just loves her. "Yeah," Emma said quietly. "Maybe." But something in her gut wouldn't settle. One evening, while Emma bathed Lily, Max sat rigid just outside the bathroom door. The moment the baby gave a single hiccuping cough, Max lunged forward, whining loudly, scratching at the tile as if to dig through the floor. Emma's hands shook. She'd never seen him panic like that. "Max, stop it. It's just a cough." He ignored her and let out a sharp bark, one loud enough to startle Lily, and to make Emma's heart pound against her ribs. Josh ran in, holding a towel. "What happened?" Emma, soaked and pale, was still holding Lily in midair. "He just freaked out. Over a cough." Josh took Lily gently. "That's it. We're calling the vet." The next day they brought Max in. He sat obediently during the exam, calm, tail tucked but still, eyes watching Emma the whole time. "He's perfectly healthy," the vet said. "No signs of stress, illness, injury." "Then what's going on?" Josh asked. "He's acting obsessed." The vet offered a gentle smile. Some dogs develop a hyperattachment after major life changes. Especially to babies. He may be picking up on small sounds or scents from her that you can't detect. He's not broken. He's protecting. Emma nodded slowly, but inside, her stomach twisted. Something about that explanation felt incomplete. That night, Max refused to leave the nursery. Josh tried calling him out with treats. Max ignored him. Emma sat beside the crib, Lily already sleeping peacefully, her tiny fists curled into clouds. Max stood facing the crib with such fierce focus that Emma whispered aloud. "What are you seeing?" He didn't turn. She sat beside him on the floor and rested a hand on his back. His muscles were tight beneath his fur. His eyes flicked toward her once, then snapped back to Lily. She swallowed. "You're scared." Max didn't make a sound. At 3:07 a.m., the baby monitor chirped. Emma jolted awake and fumbled for her phone. The screen lit up with the nursery feed. Max was on his feet. Tail up, ears stiff. Growling, barely audible, like thunder muffled by distance. Lily stirred in her crib, her leg twitching. Emma nudged Josh. "Look." He blinked at the screen. "Why is he growling?" "I don't know." Then Lily let out a soft, choking gasp. Max lunged toward the crib. Emma screamed. Josh was already on his feet, sprinting to the nursery. Lily was fine. Breathing. Awake. crying now. But for a moment, just a moment, her skin had looked pale. Bluish. Her mouth slack. Max stood between the crib and the door, barking like he was trying to summon every adult in the neighborhood. Emma scooped Lily up. "You're okay. You're okay. Breathe, baby, breathe." Josh stared down at Max, panting from the adrenaline spike. What just happened? Emma didn't answer. She couldn't. Because for the first time in her life, she'd been certain, absolutely certain, that her child wasn't breathing. And Max had known before she did. The next morning, she called the pediatrician. The nurse on the phone was calm but firm. "Bring her in. Right away. Tests. Blood work. Heart monitoring." The doctor's face was kind, but serious. It may have been a brief apnea episode. Not uncommon in infants. But it's not something we ignore. Emma's voice shook. "Is she going to be okay? We'll monitor her. And I recommend keeping a close eye overnight. If you have a baby monitor, even better." Emma almost laughed. "Oh, we have something better than that," she whispered. That night, after they returned home, Emma sat on the couch in silence, Lily curled against her chest. Josh stood at the kitchen counter, staring at the wall. Finally he said it. He knew. Didn't he? Emma didn't respond. Josh turned. "Emma, that wasn't just instinct. He knew." She closed her eyes. "He's been trying to tell us for days." Josh looked toward the hallway, where Max was already lying by the crib again. Emma spoke softly, voice thick with emotion. "I think he's the reason she's alive." Josh swallowed. "We need to see what he sees." Emma looked up. "The monitor. Night vision. Recording." Josh nodded. They both knew it now. This wasn't just about curiosity. Something was happening in that room at night. And Max was the only one who'd seen it. The camera was set up that very night. Josh installed it just above the crib, its lens angled down with a wide view of the nursery. It had infrared night vision, motion detection, and automatic cloud backups, top of the line. Not that it should have mattered. Not in a normal world. But their world didn't feel normal anymore. Max paced anxiously as Josh adjusted the camera settings, as if aware his burden was finally being shared. "It's okay, boy," Josh said softly. "We're watching now. You're not alone." Max leaned into him briefly before returning to his station beside the crib. That night, Emma couldn't sleep. Every breath from Lily's room felt like a thread tying her soul to the baby monitor app on her phone. At 1:17 a.m., the motion alert chimed. Emma bolted upright, heart already racing. Josh stirred beside her. "What is it?" "Motion," she said. "Nursery." He leaned over as she opened the app. On the screen, Max, lying down, ears up. Nothing out of the ordinary. Emma exhaled slowly. But Max wasn't asleep. He was watching. The next day, Emma reviewed the recorded clips. 6 motion alerts between 12 a.m. and 5 a.m. Most showed Max shifting position, standing to sniff the air, sometimes padding toward the crib with soft whines. Nothing dramatic. Then came the 2:46 a.m. file. The thumbnail showed Max sitting rigidly, ears pointed forward like radar dishes. Emma pressed play. At first, the footage was silent. Lily slept peacefully, curled in a little C shape, her chest rising and falling in a steady rhythm. Max sat near the foot of the crib, body tense. Then, around the 1-minute mark, Max's ears snapped up. His body stiffened. He stood slowly, head turning toward the crib like he'd heard something inaudible to human ears. He approached the crib, nose sniffing upward toward Lily's face. Seconds passed. Then Lily jerked slightly. Her leg twitched. Then her fingers. Then she went completely still. And Max lost it. He whined loudly, pawed at the crib, ran to the door, barked, once sharply, then sprinted out of view. The timestamp read, 2:47 and 16 seconds a.m. Emma clutched the phone with both hands, her breath shallow. Josh came over. What is it?" She handed him the phone and watched his face change as the footage unfolded. "She stopped moving," he whispered. "She stopped breathing," Emma corrected. "That was the night I woke up." Josh said nothing. His knuckles were white against the phone case. "Play it again," she said. They watched the clip 4 times. Each time, Emma noticed more. The way Lily's chest paused. The way Max sniffed before she even reacted. The urgency in his body language, not panic, but purpose. This wasn't a fluke. This was detection. Emma called the pediatrician again that morning. They scheduled a sleep study. Meanwhile, the alerts continued. Night after night, the camera captured the same pattern. Max waking seconds before Lily stirred. Max whining softly. Max barking, only once, when her breathing changed. It wasn't always dramatic, but it was consistent. He knew. Every single time. 3 days later, after a longer episode caught on camera, the doctors gave it a name. Central sleep apnea. Lily's brain occasionally forgot to signal her body to breathe. It was rare. Hard to detect in infants. Often missed. Honestly, the doctor admitted, you're lucky your dog was so vigilant. We might not have found it until much later. Emma nodded, her throat closing. She thought of Max standing guard night after night, trying to communicate with barkless eyes, trying to warn them before Lily's lungs remembered how to breathe again. He hadn't been protecting her from something outside. He'd been protecting her from her own body. That night, as they fed Lily in the nursery, Emma stroked Max's fur. He rested his head on her knee, calm but alert. "Why didn't I listen sooner?" she whispered. Josh looked up from the bottle. "Because we didn't want it to be real." Emma nodded. But it was. And he knew. They watched Lily fall asleep, her eyelids fluttering. Josh leaned over and kissed Max's head. "You saved her life." Max's ears twitched, but he didn't move. Emma opened the baby monitor app and watched the live feed. 2 souls, side by side in the night. One dreaming, one always awake. They shared the footage with friends. Then family. Then, without really planning to, Emma uploaded a clip with a short message. "Our dog Max refused to leave our baby's crib. We set up a camera. What we saw changed everything. He saved her life, more than once." Within days, it went viral. People around the world commented. "This made me cry. Never doubt a dog's instincts. This is more love than some people ever give." The video wasn't flashy. It didn't need to be. It was real. And it hit where people feel the most fragile, the quiet, holy space between life and loss. Emma stared at the final frame of that video, Max sitting beside the crib, looking up into the darkness. His eyes didn't blink. His body didn't move. Only his ears, listening. "Boys." For days after the diagnosis, Emma couldn't stop watching Lily sleep. Even when the new medical monitor quietly beeped beside the crib, confirming every breath, Emma still checked the rise and fall of her daughter's tiny chest with the desperation of someone who'd learned how fragile it truly was. But Max? Max was at peace. He still refused to leave the nursery, but his energy had shifted. He didn't pace. He didn't whine. He simply watched, the same way a lighthouse watches the ocean, not out of fear, but because it's what it was made to do. The pediatrician gave them options: a breathing monitor, a sleep apnea alarm, and the advice to check on Lily every few hours. But Emma already knew what she trusted most. Every night, she and Josh took turns napping on the couch outside the nursery. And every night, Max stayed curled beside the crib, his eyes glowing in the dim light, never closing for more than a few seconds. One evening, about a week later, Josh walked into the nursery to find Emma curled up on the floor, asleep, her hand resting gently on Max's fur. Lily was snoring softly above them. Josh didn't say a word. He grabbed a blanket and covered them both. The next morning, Emma sat at the kitchen table, a cup of cold tea forgotten in front of her. She opened her laptop and stared at the blinking cursor of a new post. Then she began to type. "I thought we were saving a dog when we adopted Max. I thought we were giving him a second chance. But the truth is, Max saved our daughter's life. Not once. Not by accident. He knew. He watched. He waited. And he refused to stop until we finally listened." She included a short clip, one of the softer moments, of Max lying beside Lily's crib while her breathing faltered, followed by a shot of him bolting for the door to wake them. She hit post. And something changed. The story spread like wildfire. First among her friends, then parenting groups, dog lover communities, and eventually national news outlets. Messages poured in. Thank you for sharing this. I cried watching that video. I lost my baby to undiagnosed apnea. I wish we had a Max. Your dog is a hero. It wasn't just a viral video anymore. It was a movement. A local news team reached out. Then the national one. The mayor's office called to invite them to a community safety event. A dog food company offered Max a lifetime supply of premium meals. But it wasn't the gifts or interviews that stuck with Emma. It was the message from a mother in Idaho. I never even considered sleep apnea in newborns. Because of your story, I brought my son in. He had it too. Max didn't just save your daughter. He saved mine. Emma sat down on the floor, pressed her forehead against Max's and wept. Josh suggested something light. He deserves a break, he said. So they took Max to the park one afternoon, the first time they'd left the house together as a family since the diagnosis. Lily, wrapped in a soft blue carrier on Emma's chest, dozed as the sunlight warmed their faces. Max trotted ahead on his leash, ears bouncing, tongue lolling out. But even then he kept glancing back. Checking. Always checking. A little girl ran up to them, no more than 6 years old. Is that the dog from the video? Emma smiled. It is. The girl knelt and threw her arms around Max's neck. Thank you for saving the baby. Max, of course, simply wagged his tail and accepted the hug like a medal. That evening, a package arrived. Inside was a simple wooden plaque, engraved with delicate script. For Max, hero, guardian, family. Presented by the city of Brookhaven for acts of exceptional loyalty and life-saving instinct. Emma held it in her hands for a long time. Josh hung it above the nursery door. A few days later, they received an invitation from the local fire department. Max would be honored at the town's Heroes Among Us ceremony during the spring festival. We usually give these awards to firefighters and EMTs, the letter read. But this year, we all agreed, Max belongs there. Emma cried again when she read it. Not from sadness this time, but something else. Something like reverence. Because now the world saw Max the way she did. Not just as a pet. Not even just as a hero. But as a guardian soul in fur and breath and bone. At the ceremony, the applause was thunderous. Max walked calmly across the small stage, led by Josh, and sat down at Emma's feet. Lily, tucked safely in her carrier, gurgled and waved one tiny hand. The fire chief pinned a gold star to Max's collar. Emma gave a short speech, her voice catching as she looked out over the crowd. I'm not sure how to explain what Max did for us, she began. There aren't words big enough to hold it. But if you take anything from this story, let it be this. Listen to your animals. Trust their instincts. And never underestimate the quiet kind of love. The kind that stands watch in the dark, even when no one's looking. That night, after the ceremony, Emma sat alone with Max in the nursery. Lily was fast asleep. The room was dim, the soft hum of the medical monitor like a lullaby. Max lay beside the crib, chin on his paws. Emma reached down and scratched behind his ears. You did it, she whispered. You kept her safe. And somehow, you kept me safe too. Max let out a low sigh and pressed his head gently against her hand. For the first time since Lily had come home, Emma felt a deep, complete kind of peace. Because she wasn't alone. She never had been. Spring turned to early summer, and with each passing day, the fear began to fade. Lily was growing stronger, her cheeks rounder, her cries louder, her eyes brighter. The medical monitor still hummed beside the crib, but it beeped less often now, each clear night a silent victory. And Max? Max remained the same. He still followed Lily's every move, still rose with a quiet growl whenever a strange car rolled by the house, still nudged open the nursery door if it wasn't left ajar. But there was something else in him now, too, something lighter. A sense of ease. It was as if Max understood that the danger had passed, but his watch was not over. He would remain, not out of anxiety, but out of love. Lily had begun to crawl. Slow at first, awkward and clumsy, a mix of giggles and tiny frustrations. Max was never far, always a few paces behind, letting her grab tufts of his fur for balance, never flinching when her little fingers tugged too hard. One afternoon, Emma watched from the doorway as Lily crawled across the rug and bumped into Max's outstretched legs. Instead of moving, he lowered his head and let her pat his nose. She squealed. He thumped his tail once. And in that simple moment, Emma saw it. Not just a dog watching over a baby, but a friendship beginning to blossom. One that would grow with them both. That weekend, they visited the town square again, this time not for an award, not for cameras or speeches, but just for life. Lily sat propped up on a blanket while Emma fed her small spoonfuls of mashed banana. Max lay beside them, nose on his paws, basking in the sun. A stranger approached, an older man with kind eyes and a slow step. "Is that the dog?" he asked. Emma nodded. "That's Max." The man crouched, eyes shining. "I saw the video. I've watched it more times than I can count. I lost my daughter 30 years ago to SIDS. Back then, we didn't have monitors. Or maybe even the knowledge. But your story," his voice cracked. "Your story gave me something I didn't know I still needed." Emma placed a hand on Max's back. "He's given us a lot of that lately." The man wiped his eyes. "He's more than a dog." "Yes," Emma said softly. "He is." That night, after Lily had gone to sleep and the house was finally still, Emma stood at the kitchen window, gazing out into the quiet yard. Josh came up behind her and wrapped his arms around her waist. For the first time in months, they weren't talking about monitors, or doctor's appointments, or fears. Just the stars. The quiet. Their family. "You know," Josh said, "I've been thinking." Emma leaned back into him. "That sounds dangerous." He smiled. "Maybe. But I keep wondering what would have happened if we'd brushed Max off. If we hadn't set up that camera." Emma didn't respond right away. Because she'd wondered the same. Many times. "I think Max was put in our lives for a reason," she finally said. "And not just to save Lily." Josh kissed the top of her head. "No." She turned to face him, her voice barely above a whisper. "He saved us too." A few weeks later, they received a letter in the mail. Handwritten. No return address. Inside was a folded photo of a German shepherd beside a young boy in a wheelchair. On the back, the words, "Because of Max, we adopted one of our own. He's already changed our son's life. Thank you." Emma held the photo to her chest and cried. Because somehow, their quiet story, a baby, a dog, a camera in the dark, had become something much larger than them. A ripple. A legacy. On Lily's first birthday, they held a small celebration in the backyard. Nothing fancy. Just balloons, soft music, a picnic blanket, and a dog bone-shaped cake just for Max. Lily smashed her cupcake into her face with gleeful abandon, icing coating her fingers, nose, and even Max's tail. Emma snapped a photo just as Max leaned in to gently lick the frosting from Lily's outstretched hand. The flash went off. The picture was perfect. She printed it the next day and placed it beside the plaque above the nursery door. That evening, after Lily had gone to bed and the dishes were put away, Emma sat on the rug beside Max. She scratched behind his ears, the way she always had. "You know," she said, "I don't think we'll ever be able to thank you enough." Max yawned, stretched, and rested his head in her lap. "But I hope," she whispered, voice cracking, "you know that we love you. Not just because of what you did, but because of who you are." Max blinked slowly. Outside, the wind whispered through the trees. Inside, the monitor blinked its steady green light. And beside it, Max watched, not because he had to, but because that's who